Hey, welcome to Calls to Quarantine. My name is Mike,
And I'm Leanne.
and today with us we have
JD?
Thomas.
That's
Hi,
good.
JD and Thomas.
Thanks for
It's
joining
not
us,
one
guys.
name. It's not like JD Thomas. It's not.
It's not a whiskey brand.
No, it could be.
It
We
could
should
be.
say.
Definitely could be.
Yeah.
I think
I
you
mean, I
guys
don't
are on the
drink,
wrong
but we
path.
can make
I
it
think
happen.
yeah. Well, that's even better. You don't drink all of your own supply out of stock. You
I
know.
feel like it would have like cherry notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
JD
why
Thomas.
I'd be the best meth dealer. You know, I'd be the new Heisenberg.
There you go.
Just don't do it.
What's
Yeah.
holding you back?
I'm not Heisenberg.
And
It doesn't have
quarantine
to act,
is
really.
Most
quarantine's
cooking
probably
I
not the
could do
best
is
time.
burning eggs.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on our show.
Thank you for having us.
The first thing we want to talk about is what you guys were up to before all of this crazy stuff happened. So before quarantine, before coronavirus, what were you guys up to?
We were licking like hand railings
Doorknobs.
and doorknobs. We were trying to get the flu so we didn't have to go to work. And
All
then
right.
Even though we, run our own production company, we didn't want to go to work.
yeah. And then we were looking for reasons not to have to cancel to have in-person meetings. That was most of our time was based on. Like, how do we cancel this without our anxiety taking over?
All
And
right.
then all of a sudden we had the best excuse ever. Oh yeah, no, I don't want to catch the COVID-19.
Yeah.
Gonna
There
have to take
you
a
go.
day off. And they're like, all right.
A month
So
and a half later.
we
It
basically
sounds like-
have you to thank or blame, depending on your experience.
Yeah, we prayed to Joe Pesci and he made things happen. So
Yeah.
you know,
Very kind of him.
All right.
as the great George Carlin once said, I pray to Joe Pesci, but I worship the sun. Anyway,
Where were you both living?
Brooklyn.
Yeah, no, we live in Brooklyn. Our production company's based out here, and pretty much living and breathing Brooklyn and pizza.
Yeah, just not when we go outside. Outside we have to wear like
Yeah.
one of those masks.
Yeah.
So we can't breathe.
So-
Mortal Kombat masks.
You're
Yeah,
not really
everyone's
breathing
like,
pizza anymore.
Yeah.
You're breathing pizza through a mask.
Pretty much.
I'd be
How do
happy.
you
with it.
how do
You
you
have
eat
to
the
adapt to
pizza?
life.
Yeah, that seems like a saucy life, but
Oh yeah.
What kind of jobs were you working on?
well, we have 22 projects we have going on at any given
Wow.
time,
Wow.
and they range from
Wow.
anywhere from TV ideas to movies to talk show things to we have novels, books, music.
And it's you two doing 22? You two doing
Well,
22?
it's us, and then we bring other people on to different projects depending on what it is.
Okay.
You know, like for Team Rise Together, we have other people that help or get involved. You know,
Okay.
for a movie we were about to film, literally, we were about to film before.
We were supposed to film last week.
Yeah, we had all the money coming in. And it was like, woo! And then everything that could go wrong obviously went wrong. And
Like the world shutting down.
yeah, so we were like, all right, but we had several people working on it. We had the cinematographer. We don't film everything. We get professionals to come in and help us. I direct and write, but obviously we don't do lighting. So
And I'm just there to look pretty.
So
You know.
note, if there's anyone out there who does lighting, you might have a position.
right, yeah. Actually, we do lighting for free if anyone wants to hire. No,
If you need lighting like this, you might
Like
have your
this.
guys.
yeah, I need a flashlight and a
It's an
socket.
tinfoil.
All right. Before we get into what you guys are up to now, would you mind touching base on where you were mentally and physically, if you feel comfortable, before all of this happened? So what was your mental state and what kind of physical activity were you doing?
Well, actually, Thomas and I, before everything, like we normally have like our little quirks that we deal with. Like I've mentioned before, like in private conversation that, I struggle with anxiety.
Ooh, somebody might hear this.
Oh my God.
Well,
See?
you're a musician, and we already know that because you're a
Yeah.
musician.
Yeah.
Diagnosed
Get
with
over it,
generalized anxiety disorder. It's all
Yeah.
good.
He actually argues with himself. He goes, "You think my anxiety's bit? No, it can't be that bit. Well, maybe it is. I don't know.
And
Is
then
it
he
coming
feels
out
it.
now?"
That sounds familiar.
And then I'll film him for TikTok. I'm like, "No, keep going.
Hey, TikTok's
Like,
a great
JD, you
platform
remember that
for
thing?
exposure right now.
I'm in love with this woman." Yeah, no.
And how about you, Thomas?
Me? Oh, well, I suffer from chronic depression, so I'm always at a state of some variation of depression. You know, where some people are like, "You're always happy." I go, "Yeah, that's fake." You know, like,
Yeah.
but you know, like
Yeah.
I'm either on a low wave or a high wave, and
Mhm.
you know, but being busy, keeping busy, you know, that's why we take on so many projects, because the moment you stop working, that's when like
Shit hits you.
anxiety and
That's-
depression. It's just like,
I-
oh, we have to think about these things. You know,
I can relate to
Mhm.
that very much.
yeah, you just gotta
Yeah.
gotta keep going.
Yeah.
Like, this is why when the world came to a stop, I'm like, well, my band's not going to tour. I have to do something. What can I do? A podcast.
I feel like you've been thriving since day one, though. I shriveled up and
Well,
came near
as
to
an
the
introvert,
end.
like the idea of not having to go out and do anything sounded really awesome to me.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to go out. What? Really?
Yeah.
I don't have to put pants on.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
This is great.
It's an introvert's world now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to our world.
Yeah. So
This
you
is
both,
our Game of Thrones right here.
Yeah. Yeah. You both are completely comfortable talking mental health, because I love talking mental health.
Yeah.
Oh
no, of
yeah,
course.
yeah. As long as we don't bring anything up, we're fine.
Yeah,
Are
no,
you-
Thomas and I are pretty big advocates for mental health and just being honest and open about it, because it's something that a lot of people feel nervous about
Yeah. The
speaking
stigma's
about,
still
because
there.
it's such a personal thing. So we want to make sure that like people know that it's okay to feel not okay.
Yeah, even for me, I feel like through this podcast, I feel like I'm kind of like coming out. Like, yes, world, I
Yeah.
am anxious and depressed. Yeah, I am.
And
I
I'm
am.
undiagnosed anxious and depressed because I'm too anxious to go get
Yeah.
diagnosed.
So are you guys diagnosed or like self-diagnosed?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, no, I am not officially diagnosed, but I am definitely.
You have someone who's diagnosed who says you are, so that's,
Yeah.
he looks like a doctor, so
It's the beard, really.
yeah,
Like,
that's
very
really
like
it.
professorial beard.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
asked all my guy friends to cough often.
Yeah. I might need a test. I might have to stop by after quarantine's over.
Yeah, no problem.
I
Just
already
shave
feel like I
before you
want to
come
hang
in.
out with
Nah,
you
that's
guys.
not gonna happen.
No, I just like my cold hands on the skin.
Oh, great. Sounds wonderful.
Gets the best cough.
Yeah, that is very true, I would imagine. If there's not that buffer there, that coldness and the cough must be so intense and
All right.
frigid sounding.
All right. So
She's the only one that doesn't know the cough method.
Yeah.
Do doctors do that to girls? They go, cough. Let me see if you have a hernia. Hold these
Yeah,
doctors.
they
Can't
grab
say
their
that's ever-
balls.
You have a
Can't
hernia.
say a doctor has ever said that to me. All right. So quarantine. At what point did you guys realize that this was serious and it, wasn't a joke and we were not going to be able to go out anymore? How did the realization happen for you guys?
I can answer this one. The moment Trump said it was a hoax, I knew it was serious.
that is so fair. And that was really early on. So you were like ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like sometime in January, I was like, did he just? Yeah, this is bad. This
Yeah.
is bad.
Yeah.
That might be the most real thing we've heard so far.
You're like, oh shit.
Like, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll never find the word, but
Yeah.
I
Well,
like
It's
it.
what's for me, like it coming up in the news so often, it was like, oh, this is pretty serious. But then like, people were saying it was really bad, but like him and I, like we work from home, so most of the time we're at home anyway. So like we don't really have to go out like a lot. And then people started shutting down, and personally I was like, this seems like it's a little like overkill. And then I ended up going out after like a day or two when they started actually like shutting things down, and like our neighborhood was completely like a ghost town. I was like, oh shit, this is like bad.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Honestly, watching the news, I saw, China was having trouble. No matter what everyone's saying, you could see they were having trouble. Then Italy was having trouble, and then you're just like, all right, yeah, we might have one person here that is sick, but they all had one person, and the next thing you know, they became this huge quarantine in Hong Kong and North Korea and everywhere. So then, like, again, it sounds like a joke, but literally when he was like, we got 15 people, it'll be I was like, there's no way. That's not how an undiscovered, uncurable disease works.
I'm no doctor, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I've watched Doctor Who enough to know something was up. I've never watched Doctor Who.
But if you did, he's probably
Dr.
good.
Quinn, Medicine Woman.
Oh, great
she,
show.
yeah,
Classic.
dysentery was her thing.
Yeah, wow. I haven't seen that in a very long time. I feel like
No
a
one
show
else
like
has
that
either.
wouldn't exist now, but I remember as a child, my mom used to watch it all the time.
It was our generation's My Little what is it? Little Prairie. What is it?
Little House on the Prairie.
Little House on the
I
Prairie.
thought you were gonna say My Little Pony. I was gonna say.
Oh,
I can't quite see the.
Are we in different generations? Are you a millennial?
No, I am definitely not a millennial. Do I look young?
You're a Gen Wire?
No.
You're a boomer?
Am I a boomer?
No. Our parents are boomers.
Yeah. My parents are like 10 years older than yours.
Yeah, my
You're
parents.
You're Gen Xers. Yeah.
I'm
you're
a Gen Xer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He's not. I am.
I'm a millennial.
Yeah, he's
Me
a.
too. I try to deny
you, I
it.
think, Mike. Right?
Yeah, you're a year older than me, I think, and
Yeah.
same age as her. So
Yeah.
I'm young. So I am 18, I guess.
Do I look old?
I look like
have
I'm
enough light.
18.
I am a part of.
Yeah, the light takes off like 10 years.
I'm a part of the
sure.
youth of the nation.
There
we go.
Because I'm the youth of the nation.
All right, so how was your business impacted? What did you start seeing with your work, with your job?
Well, we lost that one movie.
Shut the fuck down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like we had $45,000 in hand, and it got taken away because
Wow, that's
you couldn't film it.
I was picturing you like just holding 45.
Like,
Don't say that.
It
Don't
probably
say it.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then that movie was gonna bring us back at least the minimum of $300,000 in ROI. So just on our projections alone, we lost that kind of money. And then some of the other projects we had to cut away. And then we had meetings that were going to take place at the end of the year based on this movie that now we obviously can't take because we don't have anything. But we still have projects in the works. We're still talking to people. We have one television show that was originally supposed to be a documentary that they may or may not make into a
Miniseries?
like a mini series kind of thing, but it it'll
like
still be
Tiger
a
King.
documentary. What?
like Tiger King.
No,
That's crazy.
yeah, very much. Well, no, there will be humor in it, but it won't be intentionally funny because they're crazy. It'll be intentionally funny because we're funny.
Yeah.
Like we say stupid things, but
even the movie that we had planned on starting last week, that's still gonna happen. It's just like that one depends on when quarantine ends, and we can be like, okay, this is when we're gonna start. Because like we said, like we literally have everything lined up. It's just when we can physically get outside. And
so at this point, everything's kind of just up in the air, and you're waiting to hear when we can be people again.
Yeah, but we still have we have several scripts that we're working on right now that we got hired to write. Some we got to edit. I have like 3 treatments, a few pitch decks that we get hired to basically put together for people. Then we have some bands that we consult on how to be successful, and because there's things you could be doing. This is the problem. Now I'm going to start sounding serious. I'll throw in a few jokes.
Can I consult you on how to be successful?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you advice on the show. You ask me a question, I'll advise you. But ultimately, like with entertainers or even artists, they have 2 brains and only one of them works. The one brain they focus on is the artist brain. Like I noticed one of the things you said in the beginning is, oh, we can't play shows, so what do I do? And you went to content. You were like, let me do a podcast, right? But believe it or not, the hardest part about being an entertainer is realizing that marketing is more important than the byproduct.
I'm very aware of that.
Yeah. So like everything leading up to you doing this podcast is actually more important than the actual podcast itself. So the adventure of working on it, how you feel about it, the experience before, during, and after, because that's what marketing is about.
Picking the shirt you're wearing for the filming.
Yeah, pick it. Well, yeah, that's a part of it. But like, but taking a photo of you picking a shirt. it sounds crazy, but more people can
Yeah.
relate to you trying to figure out what to wear than they can relate to you doing a podcast.
That's very true. That's a very great marketing point right there. I've
Yeah.
spent a lot of time studying marketing, being in a band for the past 8 years and running all the marketing for it. And she does marketing as well.
I just got thrown
But
into a marketing position. I
I
never
would have
studied
not have thought
marketing.
of
I
it.
didn't know what I was doing, but I'm
Yeah.
Mazel
learning.
tov.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, marketing 101 is based on ultimately awareness, interest, sales, you know, and like breaking down the process. How do I build awareness to create sales that ultimately generates, I mean, how do I generate interest to, you know,
Yeah.
generate the sales? And it's like, bands usually focus on how do I sell?
Yep.
Actors think, how do I sell my movie? Comedians, how do I sell my act? How do I, get seen? And it's like, no, you have to build awareness before you earn the right. You know, here's one. You're a musician. A band would rather spend $10,000 on a CD to sell it to an audience of less than 100 people.
Absolutely.
Right? And they go, well, I'm going to play shows. And then you're like, but you're selling
Yeah.
tickets to the same 20 people.
Yep.
Mhm.
Right?
When you
But
could
they won't
spend
spend
that $10,000
$5,000 on a PR company.
Yeah,
Or,
exactly.
or it's like,
Well,
He's
so
got that smirk of like, I hate that struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I relate.
so my
It's being in a
question for
band. JD, you're
you,
lucky you're a solo artist.
my question for you is,
Dude, I got so tired of working with other people. I'm like, fuck it.
Thomas,
Go ahead. What were you gonna ask?
what kind of changes have you seen in marketing since the quarantine happened, and what do you think is like here to stay? Because for me, I feel like closer to the celebrities that I follow because now I could see
I
inside
feel
their
like a lot
house.
of people have actually been doing a lot more of like sharing their adventure because like this is such a unique situation. Like the last time something this crazy has happened in history was like over 100 years ago. So people are like, oh my God, we're literally like living history right now. So everyone is literally being forced to stay inside in their homes is just sharing what they're doing during quarantine.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a change in marketing. I think people who know how to market just maintain how to market. They just continue to do what's right and how to do it. But again, going back to artists, a lot of them are creating content. So they're just like, well, I have nothing else to do, so let me start a YouTube page. I have nothing else to do, let me do a podcast. I have nothing else to do, let me finally record an album I haven't had a chance. I'm an actor, so let me just film monologues. Like they're thinking like, what can I, or, comedians are doing like Zoom. They're doing like Zoom shows,
Mhm.
right? And you're thinking to yourself, how you haven't earned the right to create content. Like the artistic value of it is there and you should make it. You should be doing it, obviously, as an artist. But your audience, the reason Metallica could make Load after they made the Black Album, after they made Injustice, is because they have their 10,000 true fans. They've earned the right to ultimately change their brand so drastically that their core fans are going to follow them from Master of Puppets to Justice, which are two different completely sounding albums, from Justice to the Black Album, which don't sound anything alike. And then from that to Load, which is basically a heavy rock album. And their 10,000 true fans are going to follow them through that journey. But they're going to lose, and they did, because the Black Album made $14 million over its life, or something like that.
It's got to be more than that.
Yeah.
I think it's the
like
number
14 million
one
copies.
selling record of all time.
For them, yeah. It might have been 17 million.
I think it's up on the top 10 or top 20 all
Yeah, it was
together.
insane.
Because I think Thriller was
Thriller.
and
For
then-
a long time. Yeah.
And then it just recently, I think last year, the year before, was replaced by the Eagles' greatest hits.
Yeah, which doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
Because it's the greatest hits.
But when they came out with Load, if you look at the numbers on the internet at where the Black Album earned to Load, the number is insane. Like you're like, how is this the same band? Because it was like a couple of $1 million compared to tens of millions. So again, what I always tell people to do during this time is talk about your experiences. Something major companies are doing right now is they're talking about the experience of being home. So like State Farm is giving people money back, but their commercials are about their people being home. So the commercial itself is an employee of State Farm. They're obviously actors, but it's an employee of State Farm at their own house, filming on a poorly lit camera. And they're like, where are you? And then the next person, where are you? And then the next person, where are you? And then they get the owner of the company, the president or whatever. And the guy is like, we understand how these times can be. And that's why we're giving back to our people. That's all marketing. They're not selling anything but the truth of what their brand stands for. You know,
They're being a good neighbor.
they're being a real good neighbor. Yeah. No, he's right though. He's like,
Was this whole thing a setup?
No,
Wait,
no,
so
no.
you guys work for State Farm, actually, right?
Well, we've tried calling State Farm a few times. They just don't pop up like in the commercials. But you know, like,
no, I hear what you're saying though. It like more and more we're getting closer to just being real and genuine and not like painting a fake picture.
Yeah, but that's how
Talking
you
about
should
the
be to begin
reality.
with. Because like the more honest you are, the more genuine you are, the more you feel comfortable being you, the more you feel comfortable like speaking and talking, the more people are able to actually connect with you because they pick up on whether or not you're being genuine or not.
like here's something that here's a good point. So you're doing a show about mental health and mental health awareness, right? Your show technically isn't necessarily proof of the brand message, meaning we want to talk about mental health. However, we may own a production company, we do music, acting, everything, and we believe in mental health awareness. So now we're actually involved in your show, and that's us proving through presentation that we believe in it. So we're working with a brand that represents mental health. And that's the difference between content and brand marketing, is that we are presenting the effort to be involved in our message instead of just like, what's a better example? Like
We're walking the walk. And
we're walking the walk. Like if a band's like, we like to do humor, you know, and then like they just make songs that are really great. And you're like,
instead of being like heavy
Like,
sword.
this isn't funny.
yeah, like what's funny about this? Or like when they do interviews, they're like, well, you know, when we were writing the song, we were like, we need a 7/8 in there, and we're like 6/4, 6/4, 7/8, you know, and people are like, there's nothing funny about this. And that you
It
know,
doesn't add up.
yeah, but that's a
Yeah.
fraction of the humor we're
That's
gonna do.
good. That's good. Wow, that was quick. That was quick. That might be
One
the
might say
quickest
my
joke
timing
trade-off
is on.
I've seen in a very long time.
I'm on beat. Is that no?
But no, those are some really great points. I appreciate it. Do you have any like follow-up questions? We've been
I think a lot of people take a lot away from that. And they'll
Yeah.
see things a little bit differently too.
yeah,
Like,
we've
Well,
going
that's
been
the hope.
we've been listening to a lot of podcasts and trying just on our own, but would you like to offer some advice to us right now on how you think we could, you know,
Sure.
brand ourselves?
Well, the first thing you have to understand, again, it's not about your show. Because how can it be about your show if you don't have an audience? Your job is to build awareness to your brand's message so people become interested and then buy into your brand so they check out your show. Once they come to your show, whatever your brand stands for, you have to truthfully represent that. So what does all that mean? So first you have to sit there and say a brand is a design based on voice, image, and conversation. The voice are your ideals, your morals, the things you stand for, right? Image is the way you present that. So in your artwork and your website, even your thumbnails for the podcast and stuff like that. We haven't even touched the podcast yet. We're just talking about the existential stuff, right? So the way you believe yourself should be represented in the artwork, the colors, the copy that you use. Copy in marketing, is what you write. Okay, and then the conversation is how the audience responds to your voice. So if you want to be like, again, humorous, let's say you want to be humorous, and your audience is like, oh, I love how serious they are. Clearly something's missing in the presentation or your image. So you have to go back to your voice and say, all right, well, how do we really make this funny? And then you put that into action, right? Or they might say, oh, you know what I really like? I love that, they like the Stripes, like the band The Stripes, right? And this is a really arbitrary example. And you go, you know what? We do love the Stripes. We talk about them a lot. And you might say to yourself, I should lean into that because the audience is seeing the truth in us of talking about this. So how do we add the Stripes into our brand's message, right? So my advice to you guys is ultimately come up with a list of what's important to you first. Think of your voice. What do you want to represent? How do you want to represent that? What's morally important to you, okay? Then look at your image and go, how do we want to represent this? What is a good representation of this? So if you look at my brand, the Thomas J. Bellezza, the Traveling Adventures of a Resilient Entertainer, I'm not wearing it now, but right?
He's got a great slogan.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've already
So-
proven to me that you are that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in.
Let's hear it.
It is extremely interesting. I love all this.
Although I think it needs to be changed while in quarantine because you can't really travel unless you want to do it for like from here to like the kitchen.
Well, you know,
The traveling adventure.
the traveling steps.
Well, I have two things. The first is we did an exercise when we like tried to write a mission statement so that we both actually knew what our goal was for this. And I found like a mission statement exercise on Forbes, and I loosely followed it. But what it had me do was write a list of our values, which I think is compared to what you're saying is the voice.
Yeah, but a mission statement is different than branding.
Okay, how?
Because a mission statement is ultimately what your goal of being a company or a business is,
Your mission.
right? So you are a podcast, so you're a business. So what is the end result you're looking, or the problem you're looking to solve with your podcast? That's not necessarily how to represent that message.
Okay.
It's just simply saying we're doing A, B, and C because we want to create D. All right. But a brand is how you represent your overall morals and message. So if you just had a mission statement and then you sat in your room all day and did a podcast, that's not necessarily having a brand. That's just hoping to accomplish your mission. So your morals are important, yes, but not until you put them into action. The action is what helps it become a true brand. Does that make sense?
Great. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It's great.
It is awesome. I think this applies to a lot of people who are trying to start something right now with all this free time they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they don't know where to start. Like they're like, oh, what's branding? What's marketing? What's top of funnel marketing?
What is it?
Bottom of
Yeah,
funnel?
yeah.
What is that?
It's something I think a lot of people like just don't even know to look for, because especially if it's like an artist or someone who's like a content creator, they only see what's on the surface, which is the content. They don't really see what a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. And I feel like the past like 5 or 10 years is when people have started to show a lot more behind the scenes, just because technology has allowed content creators to easily just be like, oh, I'm going to go live on Facebook.
Well, more artists than businesses.
That's going for. But like
businesses aren't really going live on Facebook and like, check out our employees, package your stuff.
Like Glassdoor, like the
but not to confuse. So a lot of people they marketing and branding are not the same thing. In fact, marketing, branding, and advertisement are not the same thing. Because marketing is ultimately designing a brand to build awareness, which creates interest that ultimately generates sales, so people buy into your brand's message. Advertisement is the way you pay to present it, right? But branding is ultimately, so you're in marketing. So a lot of your work is probably like, how do we get the message out? How do we get people to see what we stand for, right? Is that what they're asking you to do most of the time?
I mean, for me, I'm kind of all over the place, but we have different segments. So we have like the content creation team, we have the design team. We don't really have a sales team, to be honest. But we like look into things. I mean, our biggest advertising is Google, of course.
Yeah, but the advertisement is ultimately the result of knowing what your brand is and how to put that into image. So content creators, their job is to create copy that represents the movement or the message of the brand. And then that goes to the other division of advertisement, how will it be presented on Google. So, you know, but marketing is really understanding what you stand for. It's about how to create that brand. And then advertisement is ultimately, but marketing also in like, you know, if you go to like a supermarket, like the stuff that's on the shelves, that's also considered marketing in a sense, because it's like, how do you market to the public?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, the end shelves.
For me, stepping into the marketing role, having no background, I kind of realized just for myself, I have a deep interest in people. I like talking to people. I like truly getting to understand people. And one of the biggest pieces that I'm drawn to in the marketing world is just like talking to customers and understanding their needs and really getting to know what they want. And a lot of times they don't even know what they want. So you listen to them talk and you hear them and they say one thing, and then you kind of take it back and you're like, all right, what were they really saying?
Yeah, there's a lot of psychology involved with
Yeah.
marketing, and it's
Very
fascinating
much.
too, because like if you really feel strongly about whatever, like a specific brand, and you're part of like the marketing team for it, you have to find a way to connect this thing that you feel so passionately about with, you know, your audience, and that's it's definitely
So-
an art skill all its own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if I say to you, what if I drew a white check mark? What does that mean?
It's a little
Well, it
rounded
means
edge.
Nike.
To the
It's Nike. All right.
Yeah.
So I didn't even
Oh,
say
yeah.
Nike. I just
Right,
talked about
right.
the check mark. I could have said the check mark and just do it, and you wouldn't like Nike.
Yeah.
What's 3 things you think of when you say Nike?
Orange,
Sneakers.
white, sneakers,
Basketball.
Basketball.
Jordan.
Jordan. Not once did you represent an actual sneaker brand where like you were like, you know, the Air Jordans, you know, the right.
Yeah.
But you're talking about
Air
things
Force
that they
Ones.
represent,
Right.
right? And that's what that's what an emotional connection to a brand is, and that's what you're trying to build. You know, bands, they go, our music's awesome. You're like, of course it's amazing, awesome, unique. You're an individual.
Yeah.
Like everything you
Sometimes
create is
not,
going to be
though.
amazing, awesome, unique. You know, but again, there's range of opinions. Some people like red paintings and some people like blue paintings,
Some
right?
people like
Yeah.
Metallica, some people like Megadeth.
But the problem is bands will want their music to get heard so people buy into them. But the problem with music is
It's
some-
a thing.
yeah, and people will listen, they'll go, I don't like this or I like it. But if you do an interview, within that interview, you will say so much stuff about you and your adventure that people will go up and down with you. They go, oh, I can relate to that. Oh, that's annoying. Or, hey, I like his views on that or her views on that, right? And they're developing an emotional interest to you, and it has nothing to do with your music. And then once they connect to you, they go, I'm going to check them out. Let me see what they have musically. But a lot of artists go the other way around. Like, how many times have you watched a professional interview on like Colbert or something, and an actor or somebody sits down in the chair and all they do is talk about the product they are pushing? Never. Never. The host may ask a question to them, and then the guest will actually move it to something personal or something about behind the scenes, or talk about something about their own life,
A funny story
A
that
funny
happened
story.
while they were filming.
right? And then the host themselves might even go, so what's this clip we have here? And they'll be like, I don't know.
Yeah, I've never seen this movie that I'm in before.
Yeah, right? And then the host will go, hey, you know, this movie's coming out on Friday. Check it out.
Yeah.
And the
Right.
reason the host can say that is because it's a third-party recommendation. But the guest doesn't go, hey, check out my movie,
Mhm.
because we can't tell people what to do because of this rule in marketing. This is a very important rule, okay?
I can't wait. I really
All right,
can't
here it
wait.
comes. Here it comes. Oh, I think we froze.
Yeah.
No.
The most important rule in marketing is people want to see you succeed, but they don't want to hear about it. All right. Now, if you could put that into action, proactive effort, people want to see you succeed, which means they want to watch your success. You grow, you learn, you fail, right? But they don't want to hear about it, which means come to my show, buy my album, watch my movie, get my book. You haven't earned the right to ask people to do that. Now, Metallica can literally write on their social media, come to our show tomorrow, and their 10,000 true fans will look into buying tickets because they've earned that right. They have the core audience. But if you have 10,000 fans following you on social media, that's not 10,000 true fans.
No, I
Because
can
out of
verse
those
like
10,000 people,
20.
Mhm.
yeah, maybe 1,000 will see it, maybe 100
Yeah.
will buy into it, right? So as a creator, you have to focus on that idea. People want to see you succeed, they just don't want to hear about it. So if you show them your journey, they'll be rewarded by the thing you do. Because that's the other thing we teach. You know, we tell people what you do is not your job. You know, you're a musician. Would you do it for free?
You guys should do a master class.
We actually have. I speak. We
He definitely
I
does
can-
do a lot of speaking.
Yeah, I could see that. You're very good at it.
Okay,
Very
so
good, very good.
my
He's
so
last
captivating.
question.
Next Gary Vaynerchuk coming up right here.
My last question with regards to marketing is, to what extent do you listen to your audience? If they're telling you to run left and you want to run right, what do you do?
Well, you have to stay true to what your purpose is, like what you want to accomplish. So that's important. But usually 10% of your return. So let's say you have 100 fans, like 100 true fans, okay? And 10 of them are just talking negatively about what you're doing.
Like, I hate those socks you wear.
Yeah, you might have to rethink your goal, your purpose. But again, if they say, I hate your socks, and you're like, but I really love these socks. If you if you have a conviction to wearing those socks, it'll break through. Like those 10 people, you know, they're the least important of your worries. What you're listening for conversation is if you want to stand for humor, entertainment, and let's say education, and those 10 people of the 100 aren't really responding to it, they're like, they're not funny, or I learned nothing from them, or even more importantly, like they're so boring. That's what you're listening for, is at least 10% of your audience hearing the truth in your message. All right. So if 10% of your audience is not hearing that truth, you have to reevaluate the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it not funny? Why doesn't it feel like it's entertaining? You know, so that's really what you're looking for. And again, you know, if you have 1 million fans, 10% of 1 million is a lot of money.
Yeah,
definitely.
If 100,000 people like,
That's an official number, by the way.
It's
well, look at McDonald's.
Going by the metric system.
Yeah, we don't talk about Europe. No, all right. So McDonald's was always about kid-friendly, family restaurant. They had the toys and like the disgusting ball pit, you know, right?
Yeah.
The syringes in it.
And they had a fat Ronald McDonald.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So then Super Size Me came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the worst thing that could ever happen to McDonald's. So what did they do with their message? They made skinny Ronald McDonald. They changed the color scheme to their restaurants to kind of get away from that old style.
Mm-hmm.
And now they talk about the health of their food. So they show their calories more. They're always talking about their salads and their healthy choices. They don't have the Super Size Me option anymore. So they listen to their audiences. Basically, it was going negative. And they're like, how do we change this message to get people to go there? And they changed their message based on the negativity because it was so strong.
Yeah,
They
that's
were
a great
turning into,
example. Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
there you go.
That's a
Awesome.
brand
Thanks
that
so much.
definitely watched develop throughout my years of being alive.
Yeah.
It feels like they're trying to grow with me. It's like when I was a kid, it was like we have kids' toys, and now it's like, hey, you're grown up now. Come to McDonald's and be healthy and have a salad. And I'm probably not gonna go there, but I appreciate that.
Well, they even didn't they retire Ronald McDonald at this point?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
I
believe
think
so.
so.
And they're
I
like
haven't
getting
seen
rid
it.
of all the ball pits.
No.
They're like-
Thank God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty
There were a
disgusting.
couple instances
Very
where they found,
disgusting.
I'll be
syringes
surprised if
in
that's where Corona
Yeah.
came from, was from a ball pit.
McDonald's ball pit.
No,
Yeah.
we're getting close to conspiracy theory
Oh
territory.
yeah, true. We got it back away.
No, came from China. Balls.
We can't get in there.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I do, you know, still want to hear about your experiences right now. So I'm curious to know what a majority of your time is being spent on now that we are quarantined. And I know you mentioned that you work from home, but have the types of projects changed, or have you found that you have more free time? And if so, what are you doing with it?
I don't think we definitely have more free time.
Yeah,
We're
no.
almost busier. The only thing that I would say has changed is we're not going to be in production. Like we're
Right.
not physically going out to meet people. We used to do every 3 months we do these free networking events. We bring like 50 people together, and you're not allowed to talk business. It's just handshaking, hellos, how are you?
The whole point is literally just to like introduce people to people.
Yeah, so our people meet your people, et cetera, et cetera. So that's gone.
Yeah. So actually,
filming is
we might miss
gone.
2 of those.
We're definitely going to miss 3 of them, you know, the
Yeah.
way it's going. But, you know, we also, you know, our big thing was we had a lot of meetings set up, and those are gone.
I think a lot of what's changed now, I think, is like just focus on which projects are getting worked on, because there were ones that were like getting ready to just go out and film, and now at this point it's like, all right, let's take a look at the stuff that wasn't ready to go film, but we can like move forward with.
Yeah. But again, you know, our job isn't to tell people to check out our projects. Our jobs are to talk about the evolution of the projects. So like we're working on like, you know, a role-playing game format, you know, that changes the way people play Dungeons and Dragons, where it's a new system, right? So that's one thing we're working on. But imagine we just talked about it and we're like, you should play this game, you know. But if we're talking about the revolutionary way the system works and have people playing it, that's more exciting.
Or
and
the floating islands.
Or there are floating islands. But then, you know, like books.
What floating islands? Tell me more.
Well, there's lots of balloons with helium in it. No,
Yeah.
but you know, but like if we're working on a book or some, but we're also trying to be role models for people. We want to influence others by letting them see what we're doing and how it's working for us. You know, if we're sitting there going, check out this thing, you know, what are we really telling our audience, right?
It sounds like we have an agenda at that point.
Yeah.
And then something that I might have mentioned, like in private conversation again, is the fact that, like, you know, us being active is just another way for us to kind of keep ourselves focused on a routine, because, you know, having, you know, depression and anxiety, like falling out of that routine really can like fuck you up.
Yeah, you got to keep habits.
That is a great segue to my next question. How have you both felt your mental state change since the quarantine? What type of effects has that had on you?
Well, I mean, I still go to therapy through video, so that helps.
Same here. I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's important, you know, and I'm in love with my therapist.
Me
no.
too. Oh, I'm not joking.
You seem like you're on Step Brothers. So.
Yeah. No. Do we just become best friends? No. So you know, I maintain therapy, but not in a sense of like I'm broken, but in a sense of like it allows me to kind of talk through things, and you know, because
it's literally the same thing as going to the gym. Like you don't go to the gym a couple times and then you're like, no, I'm strong. You have to keep going to keep that muscle working and maintain.
And just to stay healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like,
the one thing I think therapy helped with the most is I'm able to really identify what's bothering me. So if I talk about it and like, or even more so, like whenever something, like I don't judge people or tell people they're doing things wrong, but when I feel a certain way towards certain things, I'm now able to be verbal about it. I'm able to say, hey, listen, you know, I'm a little, I feel a little judged, or you know, whatever the case. And like I've learned a lot about the I statements over saying,
I feel
you're
damn
doing
proud
this
of you.
Oh, thank you. Black power. I'm Sicilian, I can say that. But you know, so therapy is important, especially for someone with chronic depression, and you know, and he has to hear it too with anxiety. I'm always like, well, have you tried this technique about, you know, because what you're feeling is real, but what is actually real, and like, how do you talk yourself out?
Yeah, 'cause my biggest thing with anxiety has just been like, my brain is always active, and a lot of my issue is that I always double, triple, and quadruple, like, guess what the hell I'm saying, thinking, and doing.
Yep.
So feeling comfortable enough to vocalize that really, really helps. And like the past like couple of years, I've been a lot more vocal, even through social media, just to like say, hey, you know, this is something that like I go through, and this is a reason why I do, you know, entertainment in particular, because, you know, like music helps me kind of focus and make sense of all the craziness. And, you know, just being in quarantine, for me, the biggest upset that I find that I'm struggling with is not being able to see other people like in person.
Mm-hmm.
And like when I do, it's just like I have to be forced to like keep a certain amount of distance, because you know, I feel like I'm a very, you know, pretty social guy. I like talking to people. I like interacting with people. I like, you know, experiencing human interaction. So having that,
it's an oxytocin release. There's actual happy chemicals that get released in your brain when you like get to hug the people you love, that we're all just missing now.
and now lovemaking is the weirdest with strangers, because like you have to stand on the other side of the road from each other.
Yeah.
and then people just stare at the weird movements.
Yeah.
That is a topic we haven't hit yet.
At least you guys are in
Creative
Brooklyn,
socially
so.
distanced lovemaking.
Yeah, we do what they did in Demolition Man. We wear things on our head that activate certain.
I hear if you take a
That doesn't
lot
get
of zinc,
invented
you
in the
can
next,
get
like,
it
2
pretty
weeks.
far.
It'll
You
be
might be able to get across the street.
Oh, you're so big on zinc.
Yeah, you take a lot of zinc, you might be able to get across the street.
I
think
meant
it's
like you're a big
possible.
We need
supporter.
to invent a slingshot.
Yeah.
One other thing that I wanted to mention was, just because we're on the topic of mental health, something that this quarantine was like the first time that I've ever been able to master it was a feeling will come over me and I'll be thinking about it. And for the first time ever, I'm able to tell myself, all right, I hear you, I feel you. Let me marinate in it for a little bit and see if it is still here tomorrow before I talk about it and see, like, make it a thing. And I have been able to let go of negative emotions and negative feelings and negative thoughts just by giving it that day to see if it's still real or if it's just my brain being overactive. And since I've been able to successfully do it, it's like a positive spiral upward of like, oh shit, like I have the actual power to like make these things not a thing. And I have been really, really happy with it. So I highly recommend just trying not to talk for a little bit and just like see if your feelings are real.
Please don't talk for a little bit.
I'm the kind of person, like, in the past I would just kind of like blurt out like, I feel this, but like,
that's
our
one of the
brain
things
lies
with
to us.
anxiety is that like you whatever the second like something like pops into your head, you kind of just go on like the snowball effect, and like if you don't catch it, you don't realize, oh wait, maybe this is like the anxiety kicking in. Like it can just kind of like domino, and like having the strength that you just mentioned to kind of like pause and be like, wait a second, let me think about this. You know, that takes a lot of like self-awareness.
I mean, feeling is good. You know, even if the feeling might end up being under false pretense, to recognize the ability to feel. I mean, first of all, it means you're alive. You know, but more, you know,
that's a good thing right now.
Yeah. But more importantly, like, you know, something that I've learned, though, you know, obviously through a few years of therapy and et cetera, but like, when we're feeling certain things, like if you focus, why am I feeling that way, over like someone is making me feel that way, that helps too, because, you know, it
gives you the power.
Yeah. What was my trigger? And a trigger isn't necessarily bad. Like sometimes you want to be triggered to feel happy. Mm-hmm. You know, like, oh, that pinched me in a way that made me, you know, and actors are always looking
like
for the pinch.
Like when someone brings you cookies.
Yeah, that always, yes. And then, you know,
I
want the cookies, all of them. But, you know, so it is important to do that too. But like lingering on it is good, you know, because it's letting you float in the emotion and just kind of be like, where is this coming from? Like, so that's good. Yeah. You know, it's like a safety net of
But just knowing that people can't make you feel. So anytime that wants to like come out of your mouth, like, well, he's making me feel, you're like, no. Yeah. That's not a thing. What's really happening?
Yeah, because ultimately you can't control how anyone else is going to feel, and no one else can control how you're going to feel. You have control over your emotions and what you're feeling.
Unless you have handcuffs and they can't get out of the room, but that's a whole nother thing.
I mean,
you totally control whatever you burn them with.
We're getting close to our boundaries. The one thing that we can't talk about.
Saul is a good movie.
What, police? No.
Come on.
No, but you know, I get it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great stuff. I could talk about this stuff forever. But so before quarantine to now, would you say your mental health has stayed the same or fluctuated as per usual?
I feel like I've had a pretty like normal fluctuation. I think the biggest spike was just like the early like stages, just trying to like readjust. This was probably like when it was like the worst, because like, oh god, this is like a really big change. And then realized like once everything started shutting down, I was like, oh, what do we do? You know, and then readjusting the schedule that like we had to like fit with what was going on. You know, it took a little bit, but just being open about it, being aware of the fact that like, okay, is this me or is this the anxiety? Being able to identify it helps move forward and smooth things out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same no matter what. I just, I kind of like whatever the moment is. I'm in the moment. I'm in the present kind of person. Like I plan for the future, but I'm like over my lifetime, I've learned to be present. I've learned to be in the here and the now and to listen to what's going on and not really. And that obviously helps with depression. Is like if we think about the future, you can go down that rabbit hole in a way that's just like none of it's happening. It's not
again
happening. Like,
I feel proud of you, and I really I want to acknowledge how far you've come, even though I didn't know you before. But yeah,
I appreciate
You've come very far in the past hour.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
You've really grown.
Well, I got the notes you sent me. I've been reading off the list. No.
That's great though. So what do you see the biggest difference in your life after quarantine being? How do you think all of this is permanently going to affect you?
Well, in the entertainment industry, I mean, just the actors alone, like sets are changing. They're going to have different situations with crafty, with
with
food.
like feeding situations.
Kissing is going to be different on set. Like there's going to be a whole process that
That's
happens.
very true. I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
But like the way they're planning on doing like feeding people, so they're just having just like a catered meal where we just have like a buffet style kind of thing. They're thinking of just doing like prepackaged like airline type of food.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
and also what is it? Sets are going to be smaller, like because they're not going to have people like
200 people.
At least in the beginning, once we
until there's like a vaccine, it's definitely going to be a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty
it's
intense,
gonna be
and I
long.
can only imagine what music shows are going to be like.
Oh yeah, no, like they were talking
Vaccines.
about stuff, like basically being canceled until like next year. Like you guys were
Yeah.
supposed to be going out like now, right?
Yeah, we're supposed to be dropping an album and going on tour, but that's all on pause now because
Wait, so are you guys not dropping the album, or is it like?
we're figuring it out right now. We'll probably still do it because we still feel people want to hear music. They have not that much to do right now. People could use a new album.
Yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Do you drop albums now, or do you wait until you can?
This is the big
We're
question.
not Metallica though.
Yeah.
Fiona Apple is a perfect example of.
Well, you guys have
right
a decent sized audience where like you can drop an album. You have like the potential to actually like use that as a marketing tool to still have something coming in.
Yeah, but I don't know. The idea with the music industry is completely different. When I was in the music industry and successful, an album made you money. Like there was literally stores.
Yeah, that doesn't
and
happen
there was physical
anymore.
product. Yeah, but now there's Spotify. There's so many. I actually give my music away for free when I release it because I'm not, or I'll put it on Spotify. Like there's avenues where I can make money.
Do you even like package it as an album, or you're just like,
there's no reason
I did a
for
song.
it. Yeah, because unless I have my 10,000 true fans, which my musical fanship has faded since 2007 when I left the music industry. But over the time, a lot of my fans actually started coming to like theater shows when I did theater, and I didn't even market it. I just put a little thing on my website, and like people would just come, and I'm like, "What are you guys doing here?" And they're like, "Oh, well, you're performing." And I was like, "All right." And then when I started doing comedy, people would show up. Like my first comedy show, 60 people showed up.
Wow,
that's really good.
That's
and I was like, but I didn't market.
I'm not surprised that you do comedy. That doesn't come as a surprise to me at all.
Some comedians would say I do not do comedy, but
if another comedian says your joke sucks, it's probably good.
Yeah, that is true. If a comedian goes, that joke is bad, it means it's good. No, it means it's good. If they say that joke is good,
feel it.
I get that.
But as far
that's
as
sad, but I get that.
Well, because people believe there's competition, but it's like no, everybody's
the same way.
Yeah.
Same way. Everyone's like, "Oh, that band sucks."
Business is the same too.
Better than us.
I wish more bands were like you guys in Psycho Stick.
Yeah, Psycho Stick's great.
Well, yeah, they're fun. They have like it's all about community and stuff. But
that and Maddie's from Long Island, so he knows what a knish is.
What's a knish? No, stay away from the knish. No, but like, if you're gonna release an album, here's an example. A band wants to release an album that has us consulting, and they were like, oh, should we wait to consult until we release the album? And you're like, what? Like, or when bands go, we're not going to market it until we release the album. You go, you're supposed.
Nobody knows who you are yet. Why are they going to buy something?
Opposite.
Yeah, it's like
Terrible.
name one movie that doesn't market the movie before the movie. It's not like the movie gets released and they go, by the way, Endgame.
Gotta build that
Yeah.
hype.
Yeah, you know. So like
Yeah.
bands, if they focus on the hype building, and not even of the album, but of the message of the band, that's more important than the album itself. The album is, again, the reward to the audience that's following your message. The audience that believes in what you're saying and they love the way you represent yourself. That's why GWAR has such a strong following, even after, you know, unfortunately the singer died, right?
Yeah.
But like, people go there wanting to get dirty. And
Yep.
it's not the music. They're not the greatest band in the world, you know,
Not
because
very
they're
good.
nowhere near Dream Theater, right? But like,
Mike,
But
is
there's
this
still-
your interview where you are personally inspired?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go join GWAR now.
I'm like thinking like, all right, what should Kissing Candace do now? Because they already said that they were recording this album, and everyone knows that it's almost. We'll talk
Yeah.
after. I honestly, I'm not a metal fan, and I wouldn't necessarily. I'm really sorry, Mike, but say that I enjoy Kissing Candace.
There's a lot of people who would say that who are metal fans. So
But
Listen, I enjoy
I
Kissing
have-
Candace, especially the bass
Yeah, but I've
Thank
gotten a sneak peek at the new album, and I am like, oof, I really like it.
It was
so,
very Italian.
yeah, that was very, Parli Italiano?
very Italian.
no. And I should. I studied in Florence. So.
I'm pretty Italian, so I'll cut.
You are pretty Italian.
But this is great, though. This was so much fun. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate everything that you've said and talking to you guys. The
Thank you
last
for having-
question I would ask is, you know, do you have any advice for people that are in quarantine, particularly artists or people that are trying to work on projects and promote themselves? What would you say to them?
You want to go first? Because I have a whole spiel.
He does. He has a spiel for literally anything. You can ask him about how to like make muffins, and he'll have a spiel for you.
That's right.
Like I would say, you know, from a mental health perspective, for anyone that's like into like that's a creative, it's a musician, an artist, you know, definitely use that to help you cope with all the craziness that's going on, with all the stress. If you're in like financial, you know, troubles, if you're just like you don't like being confined, if that's getting to you, if you miss your family, like use your art as a way to help you cope and make sense and like get by. But also remember that this is not going to be forever. This is not going to be what things are going to be like. It's tough, but it's going to pass. And everyone has the ability, if they take the time, to build up confidence in themselves to actually get through this.
Yeah.
Well
I agree
said.
I agree with all that.
But
Retweet. That's great.
My advice is pretty simple. I believe anybody that's an artist should be focusing right now on their 3 needs of success: network, market, and practice. They should be building and cultivating relationships with people within their circle of influence, and of course outside their circle of influence. They should be marketing themselves to design that brand, that message that they want to build awareness to, create interest, and ultimately generate sales. And they should be practicing not only their craft, but how the business of their industry works. One of the hardest things for an entertainer in any field is going, well, how do I sell my art? And then they get to the point where they're selling their art and they don't understand how the business works. If you work any other job, even as a musician, you work for a supermarket, you're going to go in there and go, how does the register work? What are the prices to make my job faster?
How's the sticker gun?
How's the sticker gun work? Where are the items in the, right? You learn all this so you're good at your job. But a lot of musicians, actors, everybody, they don't really learn their job. Because remember, what you do is not your job. Being a musician is not the job. That's the reward. Your job is to network, market, and practice. Your job is to manage your time, money, and people. Your job is to think outside the box. Your job is to enhance your talents, not just what you do, but how to do it within your field so you can bring value to subjects, circles, and opportunities. And during this time, we have, not only are some of us, and hopefully everyone will start getting it, but they're getting their unemployment checks. They're being able to afford their lives more so than a job would ever. And they have all this free time. So you could either go play your video games, and if that's what you want to do, great. Or you could take this time to learn these things. You could take the time to reach out to people, but not just to be like, what can you do for me?
Build genuine friendships and relationships.
But yeah, care about the people you're talking to. And success in life is not about you. It's about everyone around you, because you're in a band, you know. Who buys your tickets? Everyone else.
Exactly.
Who handles the road managing? Someone else.
Yep.
Right? Who's in the band with you? Other people. So
exactly.
Those are the things we should be working on right now. Everything he said for your mental health and like keeping stable and like understanding what you should do. And yeah, use the art to help you get through certain things. But if you really, really care about being a professional entertainer,
Professional being the keyword.
this is the time to literally refocus your efforts and put those 8-hour days into a career you want and not a job you hate.
Yeah.
And that's my advice.
That's
I love it.
fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This was
I'm
really
the heart,
good.
he's
You
the
guys
smart.
have been awesome.
I love it. You both
So,
are great.
You guys got anything going on right now you want to plug real quick, like about the production company?
We learned that they don't plug because we
Oh,
can't
that's
talk about our
right.
products.
But I still gotta ask.
However, you can go to our website,
There we go.
bbrproductions.com, and you can learn everything you want about us. You know,
BBR Productions.
yep, .com, and you can go
Awesome.
there and learn a lot.
Awesome.
And
Read a
obviously,
lot.
obviously
You
we're
have an
everywhere.
Instagram page too, BBR Productions.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to bbrproductions.com, it will take you to all our social media. It'll be on top. And then if anyone's interested in the Team Rise Together movement that's on there, all those social media is there.
Work together, grow together, and rise together.
I'm gonna follow it. I'm gonna follow
There
it
you
as
go.
soon as
That's
we hang
awesome.
up.
There you go.
Yeah. It's been great.
It's
This
awesome.
is-
Thank you guys so much.
yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
no, thank you.
Thank you.
It's also great to see you again, Mike. I haven't seen
Yeah,
you in
likewise. It's been so
at
long,
least
man.
2
Last time I
years.
saw you living in California. And
Yeah, I
now
know.
you're not. Now you're living in a computer. Very weird.
It's
Very
totally
good.
weird. We're even closer than we were before.
Did I
Yeah.
see him 3 years ago when you guys? Because
No, he toured with Psycho Stick after I did.
okay.
It's a different story.
Then I have not met you, sir.
Well, we have met now through a computer screen. Well,
Yeah.
a phone and a computer screen, depending on which end you're on.
Get my hat.
Excellent. It's like we're in the
It's
same
been
room.
excellent
But
to meet you.
Oh no.
I think that means it's time to end.
yeah, the low battery. Low battery.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys so much. This is Calls to Quarantined. JD and Thomas. You guys are awesome. Can't wait to go check out
So
what you're
awesome.
doing. I feel very inspired right now, and I hope other people do as well.
Well,
Bye.
hasta luego. Wiedersehen. Au revoir. Ting I'll see you soon.
And toodles.
Bye.
Bye, guys.